Picking out a new racket can be daunting. With dozens of brands and hundreds of different models, choosing the right racket can make one's head spin. Let's break down racket terminology in hopes of clarifying what makes rackets play and perform the way they do. When we're talking head size, we're talking about the size of the racket head where the strings are. Head size will generally range from 80 square inches all the way up to 130 square inches. Typically, the larger the head size, the larger the sweet spot. The sweet spot is the area where you get the most power and comfort from the racket. Usually, a racket's head size is in proportion to the level of player the racket was designed for. Keyword being usually. So rackets with an oversized head, so 105 square inches and larger, tend to be meant for beginner players who need a bigger sweet spot and more power. Rackets that have a mid-size head, which is 80 to 94 square inches, are meant for the more advanced player as they have smaller sweet spots. Mid-plus rackets range from 95 to 104 square inches and are suitable for the widest range of players. Stronger beginners through to advanced level players can use a mid-plus racket. Within the racket head, the strings are laid out in what's called the string pattern. There are a variety of string patterns, but for simplicity's sake, we're going to stick with the two most common string patterns found, and that's 16 by 19 and 18 by 20. What do these numbers mean? Here's an example. Let's take the 16-19 for instance. The first number, 16, is the number of main strings. Those are the strings which run from the top of the head down toward the handle and connect at the bottom of the racket head. The second number, 19, represents the number of cross strings. Those are the strings that run from side to side. The fewer amounts of strings in a racket will equal more spin due to the limited surface area touching the ball, and more strings will equal more control due to more surface area touching the ball. As with head size, the weight of a racket typically goes with the level of player the racket is meant for. A beginning player or a player that needs help generating power and racket head speed will go with a lightweight racket because it's going to be easier to swing through the air. Lightweight rackets will weigh 10.5 ounces or less when strung. Intermediate players typically pick rackets in the medium weight range of 10.6 to 11.6 ounces strung, while more advanced players may gravitate towards rackets 11.5 ounces and heavier. The balance of a racket refers to where the weight of the racket is located. If most of the weight is found in the head of the racket, it is considered head heavy. Conversely, if most of the weight is located toward the handle, it will be considered head light. And if the racket is perfectly balanced, it will be labeled as even. Swing weight is a number that is specific to the racket industry, so don't expect to see it anywhere else. Simply put, the higher the swing weight, the harder it is to swing. The lower it is, the easier it is to swing. With modern-day rackets, you'll find 99% of rackets to measure between 280 and 350 on the swing weight scale. The advantage of having a low swing weight is it's easy to generate racket head speed, so it's easy to generate spin. The advantage of having a high swing weight are more power and more stability. And if you choose a racket in between, you'll get a blend of both. Like swing weight, stiffness is measured on a number scale, in this case from 0 to 100. The majority of rackets will fall between the 50 to 80 range. Just like it sounds, the stiffness is a measure of how stiff the racket is. So why does that matter to you, the player? The stiffer a racket, the more powerful it is. But at the same time, it could potentially feel firmer and less comfortable. So if you suffer from arm issues, you might not want to pick up a racket with a high stiffness rating. Rackets with lower stiffness ratings tend to be known as control and feel rackets, making them a great option for precision players.